If you're not aware of your triggers, you'll always fall victim to cravings. But if you can recognize these patterns, I promise you'll stay sober. How do I know? Because I'm 5 years sober and I've taught other high performers just like you who are self-sabotaging to navigate and to be successfully sober. So let's get into it. Why high performers can't control alcohol and substance cravings. Now, high performers always seem to think because they're good in one aspect of life that they can control cravings, but this is not true. So cravings aren't random. They're one of three triggers. So we have environment, we have emotion, and we also have people. If you can control the trigger, you can remove the cravings, and that's how you get long-term sobriety. So the key thing to remember here is that cravings are not random. They're not some mystical thing that happens to us and we're absolutely powerful and every time they come along we've got to drink or do a line of whatever. That's just not the way it works. So cravings usually follow one of these three patterns. It can be the same place. I'll give you an example. It can be going to the pub after work on a Friday. It can be the time of the day. It can be when you finish work on a Friday. You've got this spare time, you've got the weekend ahead of you, and that is where you normally falter. Or we have emotions. We've all been there where maybe we've had an argument with our girlfriend or we've had a bad week at work and we've just decided that, do you know what, we're going to go out for one, and then that turns into two. And before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and you're calling for more bags. One of the key things I want to hit home here is that we don't blindly walk into cravings. And because of that, that means we can easily avoid them. If you actually look back to the last 5 times that maybe you drank alcohol or you used substance, you'll notice a similar sort of pattern. So I work with a client, very successful, a business owner. He's in control of multiple people, has a lot of resources, a lot of freedom. And his main problem is, it sounds so simple. On a Friday, he usually finishes work early. He goes straight to the pub. He has one drink and then he makes a phone call. So what we need to be aware of here is that Friday night is the trigger. Finishing work early is the trigger. Going to the pub with his friend is a trigger. It's predictable and it can be removed. I always like to say to people that, you're not an addict. You've just got a bad habit. You're not broken, you're not weak, and you're definitely not powerless. But the problem is, when we're stuck in this destructive cycle, we just blindly start repeating these patterns, and that is how we burn away years. So let's look at the three triggers. Every craving comes from one of these. So we've got environment, as I just mentioned, we've got emotion, and we've also got people that we surround ourselves with. So I've got this great story. My friend, God bless him, he's passed away now due to alcohol and substance abuse. But I remember he said to me one day, he said every time he looks at our mate, I'm not going to mention his name, he looks at him and he just thinks he wants to get on it. So that's a perfect example of people make you want to go out and drink. Now, I'm not saying everybody makes you want to do this, but just being around a certain person makes you act and carry out certain behaviors. So let's look at environments. We've got bars, weekends, travel. There's always alcohol around. One of the things that usually happens is when I speak to people and they've been stuck in a similar sort of pattern of having like 1 month sober, 2 months, 3 months sober, they try to keep the same behaviors. So they like to live the same life, go to the pub, go to the club. You're probably a bit old for house parties, but being around environments where alcohol is going to be around. And it's just not the way to go. If you want to, change your behaviors, you simply have to change your environments. And this is precisely why you keep failing. It's because you try to handle your triggers. You don't remove them. You test yourself. You go to the pub. You go to maybe events where there's networking and alcohol's involved and you're used to networking, drinking because you think that's how you get business deals or you think that's how you get promotions. You're staying in the same environments and you're trying to use willpower. And don't get me wrong, willpower works, but as I mentioned, it only worked for so long. And that's where you find yourself in this destructive cycle where you've been 3 months sober, then you go back. And what you'll find is you'll go back just as bad as what you were, if not sometimes worse. And the most frustrating thing about this is that when you're in this loop, you're turning up at work at 40%. By the time it gets to Wednesday, you're just about feeling normal. And then what happens? You've had a stressful week in work, you've made bad decisions, you've argued with your spouse, you've not gone to the gym, you've eaten bad. As a result, when Friday comes around, you create the same sort of cycle. So then we have the shift. So we need to be aware of the trigger. Then we need to remove it. And that is how we control it. So in simple terms, I'll give you an example. We want to see the pattern, then change the environment and control the moment. Friday, you finish work early, you've had a stressful week in work. You go to the pub. Every time you go to the pub, you have 1, 2, that leads into bags. You look back at the last 5 times that you've drank and used substance, and you realize this is a pattern. Simple. This is what we do. On a Friday, we plan an event or we go to a class which involves somebody else. So if we do not go, we're not just letting ourselves down, we are letting somebody else down. It's another layer of accountability. And that is how you can control the moment. And this is the reality check, and I absolutely love this quote. You can't out-discipline your environment. It just doesn't happen. You may go a couple of months, but eventually you will always fall. You can't just have one. Those are the famous words before every weekend bender. And you definitely cannot moderate. If you're watching this video, there is a high probability that you have been in this cycle for at least 3 years. You've tried to moderate and it hasn't worked. And look, structure beats willpower every single time. And Albert Einstein, he had this famous quote. He said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. Just let that sink in. And then we move on to the final step, which awareness isn't enough. Knowing your triggers isn't the problem. You probably already know that going to the pub on a Saturday or going out for a meal with your wife when she has a glass of wine is going to be the trigger that sets you off. The real problem that I have come across with myself and also with my clients is that they don't actually have a system in place to help them remove them. You always have the best intentions of trying to be better, trying to moderate, trying to self-medicate with this plan that you've put together, like going to the gym or doing more work just to distract yourself from the real problem. But this is why you always fall back into the cycle. And that's exactly why nothing changes. So now we have a good understanding of what our triggers are and how we can remove them. However, you've probably been slightly aware of this in the past. And the thing that actually holds it all together is having a clear system in place, also replacing this bad habit. Because what you usually find is when you remove the pub, you remove alcohol, you remove substance, you're no longer hungover, and you've got this space where you don't know what to do with yourself. And this is often where people get it wrong. They remove the alcohol, they remove the substance, and they think life's sorted. They go 3 months, maybe even 6 months, but they always end up eventually back where they were. And that is why you're here watching this YouTube video. If you want more help, I have created a 4-step sober guide that's got me sober and other high performers do the same. There'll be a link below in the description and you can also book a free call. Thank you for watching.